Good morning, Joe. Happy New Year. Joe, you're muted. Sorry.
Oh, there we go. Now, hello. How are you? Happy New Year.
Yeah, we're starting off the new year with a new book to talk about.
Hmm.
Tijuana Manana, the Anxious Iguana. I wanted to give the audience a little bit of background information about how Tijuana came to be. So, a couple of summers ago, I went to the Galapagos, which is islands off of Ecuador in South America, and I got to go see lots and lots of wildlife in the Galapagos. Lots of different islands we went to, we saw different things. And what was on a lot of the islands was um, iguanas,
Yeah.
all different colors of iguanas and piles of iguanas, iguanas by themselves, iguanas eating dried up flowers, or at least that's what they look like, but they did had moisture in them for them, and iguana swimming and all kinds of interesting things to learn about the iguanas. And they just intrigued me. And so I thought I should write a story about them because they have to do a lot of things, same as the character in the book that we worked on together. And one of the things that they have to do is be careful all the time about dangers in their world because everyone's out to get, like Galapagos hawks, for example, are out to get them for food. And so they have to be aware of their surroundings all the time. They hang out on rocks and they don't look like they have a care in the world, but they're watching out. And we saw that a lot on the islands of the animals. We saw a newborn sea lion, and the mom was not paying attention to the baby's needs because the Galapagos hawks were kind of hanging around, just waiting for an opportunity. And so that's their life, watching out. And unfortunately, many of the kids that I work with, their life also involves a lot of watching out for dangers that actually are perceived dangers that versus real dangers. So the animals in the Galapagos need to be watching out because those are real dangers for them. But in school and at home, and generally speaking, kids don't have to watch out for fight or flight for threatening situations in the same way, but their brains can perceive situations to be threatening as though they're life or death situations, like the animals in the Galapagos. And so they can go into fight or flight, they can freeze. There are many, many things about being in school and being in home too, or out in the community, even at a birthday party, that can feel very threatening to kids. And that's what their brain is telling them. And so the reactions are protective reactions, but how it looks might be hitting somebody, or it might be running away in an unsafe way, or it might be just shutting down and not talking, or it might be hiding under a table, all kinds of ways that a child might react. But then adults don't always understand what that reaction is about and see the reaction itself, the behavior that's on the surface, without understanding that the child actually is feeling threatened. They don't have the skills that they need to be able to do the demand. They don't have the executive functioning to stay focused and maintain attention for some task that takes a long time or has multiple steps to it, or something where they just really don't have the foundation. They're too young, whatever the developmentally, to be able to do some of the things that they're being asked to do. And lots of times they just don't have the tools for social interactions with others or know how to say, stop, I don't like that, to a sibling or to a peer at school. So in reality, kids actually are under a lot of threat at school and at home and in the community in ways that we don't think about typically, I think, as adults. But because I'm an occupational therapist, I think about it all the time and I see it all the time. Every day that I work with children, I see kids in this fight or flight state because even though I might say, let's play a game, if I suggest a game that they don't feel competent to do, like jump rope, I might see a reaction of running away or crying or shutting down or somehow wanting to avoid the situation. So my job as a therapist is to help children understand what their brain is really doing. Because a lot of kids think that they're bad. Those are their words, because they either think they're good kids or bad kids because they don't know any other vocabulary than that. And they think that they must be dumb or stupid, again, their language, because they don't know how to explain the fact that it's hard for them. And so those are the words that they use. And then they take those words on and feel bad about themselves because that's the belief they have. So the main reason that I wanted to write the book was to help them understand that that's actually not the reality, that it takes, that they can learn, they can do hard things, and they need a lot of support and they need a lot of understanding from adults to know how to do that and to understand their reactions and look underneath at what are the lagging skills? What can I do to provide scaffolding so that the child can be successful? Because they can. There's always a way to move a step forward with children to get them more able to do what's expected of them at home and school and then in the community. Not easy for anybody, but it is possible to help them. That's what I do with my clients all the time. So, Joe, I know you've worked in the schools as well, and I'm sure you've seen similar things.
You did. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. As a teacher, I came across this a lot in my job, especially since I'm teaching technology. It was very important for me to um, make sure that they're feeling like they have ownership of of what I'm teaching. And that was like my whole thing. It's like I'm trying to teach them this is the technology or whatever it is that I'm teaching computer wise. This is a tool and this is going to help you, in your future grades or as you get older. And once you're an adult, I'm laying down the foundation for um, this aspect of school and your education. And but a lot of the kids were just very intimidated by the technology. And so um, a lot of the poses and expressions that I do, not only in this book, but in like the other books and drawings that I'm working on, I pull a lot of their expressions just from the kids that I've worked with. And so for Tijuana, a lot of it was from just working with the kids at school and how they kind of shut down or they're afraid of it. They don't know what to do. And so like that's my job. It's like, no, you can do it, like just be a big encourager and hey, I got your back. It's not as bad as you think. And it's okay to not know something and say you'll get it eventually. And so but that's, I mean, that's what I really liked about teaching is just they don't know something. And then with a little bit of practice, and it's like, then it's not practice makes perfect, practice makes progress. And so that was my whole thing. It's just you're making progress. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of like what Tijuana Manana does in the book. He's making progress. He's overcoming the whole fear of the sight words and all that. So it's a good story. Good job, Nan.
Well, and that's why we're a good team, because you understand all those things as well from
Mhm.
your experience, and everything you just said about the kids' fears and so forth is what the book is about. And
Mhm.
so the practice and feeling confident that they can do it in the end, and that aha moment, which we see at the end of the story too. And that you're saying that's a wonderful way to be with children, to be able to be the encourager and be the one who helps them be able
Yeah.
to get to that point where, oh, I get it now. I feel confident I can do this. So that's wonderful to experience.
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure we give credit to um, the the people who have the original idea of the upstairs and downstairs brain that we talk about in the story, and Dr. Dan Siegel and Dr. Tina Payne Bryson have written a book and they use that language in the book. And it's wonderful language because the downstairs brain, what we're talking about is building the foundation for what the upstairs brain needs to be able to do. So the upstairs brain has the executive functioning here and making decisions and the willpower and all those kinds of things that children need to be able to make that progress that we're talking about. And at the brainstem, we need to feel like we're not threatened and in fight or flight mode. Because if that's happening, which is pretty much what the book is about, I'm trying to explain to kids, and I do teach them about this because I do want them to understand how their brain functions so that they understand it's your brain protecting you, and that's why you might want to hide under the table or in Tijuana's case, hide under the blanket, because it does feel threatened and it can't hear the upstairs brain, which might be us adults, saying, it's okay, I'll help you with it. And so the downstairs brain is ruling in that moment. So what can we do to make things possible for the upstairs brain to actually do its job by quieting the downstairs brain? So that's the main idea of the book, really, and giving strategies for how to do that. And of course, there's the extra handouts that are on the website that can reinforce the messages through activities as well as resources for parents. And we'll go over those in one of the upcoming weeks. And then also we've got the journal, which we'll talk about also in another upcoming episode, where it's just all different ways, different for different kids to try to access that thinking that I can do this. So it might be for journals for some kids, it might be making games out of it for other kids, lots of different ways. So I try to give ideas about that, as well as give ideas for the adults working with the children of what can you say, how can you encourage, like you said, Joe. So I thought that what we could do is start reading the book. And when you see something in the book that you think, oh, I really want to share about this, step in. And I have ideas of things that I think would be fun to share about also. So I'll get that up. So this is the inside cover of Tijuana Manana. And then his mom is saying, it's time to do your homework. It's time to practice on your sight words. And he's going to do anything he can to avoid doing that. If it takes too long, he doesn't think he's good at it. It's boring, which is what most kids call it. And when kids call something boring, it kind of is a conversation stopper for many families. They don't know what to do with that. It's not enough information. It's not accurate information to work with. And so parents can and teachers can sometimes not really know how to respond to that. So this is also trying to model that. So mom says, oh my, Tijuana Manana, with the way you're hiding, it seems like you don't like how that feels. So I'm trying to give, again, language to the parents and trying to help them know how important how you talk to your child in these empathetic ways. So I try to liken it to when a child is small and they fall down and they need a Band-Aid. Like every adult knows, oh, let me see. Oh, gosh, that looks like it hurts. Let me help you. How about a kiss for you, owie? And it's that same kind of connection that you can make with a child over their emotions. Their emotional hurts, just like their physical hurts. So he's giving her a little more information now and saying, I didn't want to read, it's too hard. And then he talks about other classmates because he is not the only one in the classroom for sure who's struggling in some way. So I listed here the fight or flight or freeze behaviors that you might see in a classroom. Spike running away, Cuba staring off into space, which is like shutting down, and Fiji, who just starts being physical with kids nearby. So his mom's.
If I could say one thing, um, uh, one thing that when I'm looking at the mom, little fun fact. So when you told me the whole thing about Ecuador and Galapagos and all that. And I was thinking, it's like, well, what's a mom gonna look like?
Oh, yeah.
And so I did some research, and I based her outfit on kind of like a traditional Ecuadorian um, uh, fashion. And so this one stood out because I really like the vibrant colors. So I like just using a lot for the books. I like using a lot of the basic colors, and so I thought this really like would really just pop, um, and have a nice contrast with the red flowers and the green, and so I thought it looked really good with